Hi there, everybody. Let's make sure the volume is good on that. Sorry? Wait. 41, so 41% of every single tax dollar in our province of Ontario is spent on what we call the public healthcare system. And if as a society we were achieving and getting the results that we deserve, we were vibrant and healthy and well, this would be a well-invested amount of money. The problem is that as a society, we are getting sicker and sicker. We are suffering more and more. For the first time in known history, the next generation of kids, this is your sons, your daughters, your nieces, and your nephews, are expected to die at a younger age than their parents. This has never happened before. We've never seen this happen. And what I believe is, what has happened is, we have spent our lives where we've been brought up to believe that how we feel is simply related to our health. How we feel is what makes us healthy. So if we feel pain, if we feel symptoms, if we get a runny nose, that means we are unhealthy. If we don't feel any, that must mean we're healthy, regardless of how we feel. And the reality is, especially at the front end of sickness and disease, covering up symptoms is relatively easy. It is the role of almost every single medication out on the market. If we look at a simple example like heartburn, most heartburn is actually caused by the stomach acid we have being too weak. So what does the body do? It does this ingenious thing. It creates more acid to make up for the weak acid so that you can optimally digest your food. This is a great idea, but what happens is eventually too much builds up, it gets up into the esophagus, and you experience heartburn, a burning or unpleasant sensation up in the chest. So what do? We take an antacid. It takes away the symptoms. That's not a problem. That's good, we feel better, right? So we think we're being healthy. The problem is it's now weakened the stomach acid even more. So we've actually perpetuated the problem, so the body's gonna do another genius thing. It's gonna create more acid. So you're gonna take another antacid, it's gonna bring it down more, and you're gonna get stuck into this vicious cycle. If we look at something more serious like a heart attack, in 50% of cases, the first known symptom of heart disease is a deadly heart attack. The first known symptom is death, right? Just because you were feeling good leading up to it does not mean that's what's going on. And the symptoms in the body are typically the right response given what's going on. It's the environment, it's the situation you've put your body in that actually dictates that these symptoms have happened, okay? And when we look at these interventions like medications and surgeries, we are not talking about side effects. We aren't talking about negative side effects. They are simply the effects. 80 to 90% of the medications on the market are used for a purpose other than their original design. It is so common that there's even a term for this. It's called off-label prescribing. And what happens is they start using and testing this one medication, and then they find out it has some sort of different effect. And they go, oh, we could start using it for that. But where in the process does it stop having the initial effect? It doesn't. If we look at a really common example that I think most of us have probably heard of, Viagra. Viagra's original design was to help with angina, pain in the chest. Specifically, it was designed to work on the arteries in and around the chest. So once they started using it, started testing it, they started realizing it had, well, a bit of a different effect than we were expecting. So they started using it and prescribing it for that effect. The problem is, where in that process did it stop having an effect on the heart? It didn't. It didn't. And these interventions are starting to take a giant toll on our society. In our province of Ontario, again, approximately one out of every 192 deaths in the entire province are caused by one type of medication, opiate drugs. We are not talking about heroin, we are not talking about illegal drugs, we are talking about illegally prescribed drugs, even if they are used for an illegal reason. And this is out of every single death. This is elderly people passing away quietly in their sleep. It's heartbreaking stillborns, it's car accidents, it's people dying of cancer. From this one type of medication alone, 1 out of 190, that's 0.5% of the entire population. It is taking a toll on us, okay? These interventions, they might keep you alive, they might allow you to not suffer along the way. They have their time and place, but they do not heal you. Only you can heal you. There is nothing that you can take from the outside of your body, put it into your body, that will heal you. All these interventions do is allow you to get through until your body heals itself. Because every single person in this entire planet has a remarkable ability to heal. We call it your innate healing potential. And it's in every single person. It's in everyone from the day you're born to the day you die. Even the sickest person on the entire planet heals at some level every single day. There's no exception to this. Now that we know this, we have to come to accept a few different things. First, we have to accept that in our province and in Canada, we do not have a public health care system. We have a public sick care system. And this public sick care system does a fantastic job of keeping you alive. That's its role, and it is amazing in there. When something happens in your life that your body cannot heal, it keeps you alive or it keeps you functional until your body can heal it. Okay? But it doesn't create health. How can we expect a system that is designed to treat sickness and disease to create health in our body? The simple answer is that we can't on any level. If we have a dark room, okay, and we want to make it bright and vibrant, we cannot simply remove the darkness out of it. What we have to do is we have to add in light. It's the only way to change it. Health is the exact same situation. Okay? You cannot make people healthy by removing sickness. You have to add in health. And that has to come from the inside of you. You have to put your body in a position where it can be healthy and it can be well. Because every single person on this planet deserves a bright and vibrant life. To experience life at a level that they deserve. It's really that simple. And it brings us to one of these catchphrases that are in our society right now, right? Natural healing, right? You see a supplement, you see a food, it's like, heal naturally. There's a problem with this. It sounds simple on the surface, but if there's natural healing, that means there must be unnatural healing. By qualifying the type of healing we are experiencing, it weakens the entire concept of health. Our bodies are the most miraculous things in the entire world. The things we can go through, the things we can take and come out the other end well is extraordinary. But when we start weakening this concept, when we start believing that something from the outside being put into us is going to create health, it weakens the concept. It takes away from that innate healing ability that every single one of us has. Okay? So up to this point, I've been pretty clear on what I believe health is not. But looking at what something isn't doesn't help take us to the next level. It doesn't allow us to develop this level of health. So what is health? It's very simple, and it's right there in the word. Health is healing. Health is healing. Okay? If you are healing and you are healthy, you are going to be able to adapt to stress. And if I use the language that I use with my patients in my office every day, or give you kind of a bit more of a tangible definition, health is appropriately adapting to stress. Health is appropriately adapting to stress. It isn't about the stresses on your body, it isn't the symptoms you experience that define your health. It's that you are adapting appropriately to whatever goes on. If I look at an example like a cold, something simple, everyone in this room, anyone listening to this online, has had a cold, and it sucks. You're congested with a runny nose, you might have a fever, you're tired and lethargic, you might have lost your appetite, and it sucks. But the reality is, every one of those symptoms is there for the right reason. The problem is that you didn't fight off the cold virus to begin with. Your nose gets runny and congested so that it can flush out the dead viruses. You get tired and lethargic because your body says, you need to sleep so I can fight this off. You lose your appetite because digestion takes a lot of energy, and we want to conserve that energy to fight off this infection. You get a fever because your virus cannot replicate in that increased temperature. The problem isn't the symptoms. The problem is what happened with you that you weren't able to fight off the infection. And it's how you adapted to the stresses in your life. Now, when we look at stress, most people think about the emotional stresses that we feel, right? We got exams coming up. We have all these family things going, whatever the case may be. And that's a piece of the puzzle. But it's all stresses. There's physical stresses, emotional stresses, physical, emotional, and chemical stresses. And the body does not know the difference between all these different stresses. All it knows is stress, and it responds the same to every one of them. It might be proportionate to the level of stress, but it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's something to do with our traumas, toxins, and thoughts. And it's how we respond to these that define how healthy we are. And these stresses and not appropriately adapting to these stresses is what causes sickness and disease. Every single time. There is no exception to this rule. Now, I know what you're thinking about. We hear all these examples. We think about people that, did everything right when they got sick. It's people that were born with a genetic disease. Well, everybody has a miraculous ability to heal inside them from the day they're born to the day they die. But you can only be as healthy as you can be. It's no different than any other aspect of our life. You cannot control your top-end potential. You can't control your top-end potential to be an athlete. You can't control your top-end ability to be a student or academic. And this is the cool part. Just like everything, you have 100% control over the abilities within that. You have the ability to be the best athlete you can be. You have the ability to be the best student you can be. And just like those, you have the ability to be as healthy as you can be. Whatever that limit is, you have the opportunity to experience that. And that is up to you. But as we move through the world we live in now, there is so much confusion. There is so much noise in the health world, right? Eat this, don't eat that. Do this, don't do that. It's a bunch of noise. You can open up a men's or women's health magazine. On one side it says something, on the other side it contradicts itself, and they're probably both wrong. It's all a bunch of noise. So we need to find ways to start getting rid of this noise and live the life that we deserve. And we need to do that by living by health principles. When we look at a principle or a law, it is right every single time. There's no exception to this rule, right? Because if you are not living by health principles, you are not appropriately adapting to stress. And if we aren't appropriately adapting to stress, you cannot be as healthy as you can be. You need to get rid of the noise. So I'm gonna propose a relatively unique idea to look at health. And you can apply this to everything. You can apply this to a business. You can apply this to your schoolwork. But it definitely applies to health. What you need to do is you need to, 1, identify the requirements of being healthy and well. 2, you need to start finding strategies to fulfill these requirements. Then you need to give your body time to heal and adapt. And the next step is simply just to be awesome. It is that simple. It helps you get rid of the noise. That way, the next time you talk to somebody about something that sounds new, you don't have to go read 80 peer-reviewed journals to find out if it's right or wrong. You don't have to read an article in the paper and go, spend 6 hours researching. All you have to do is compare it to the principles. It's really that simple. If it matches the principle, if it matches the requirement, it's good for you. If it doesn't, it's not. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. There might be some complication in the details behind the scenes, but once you understand what these requirements are and you identify what the strategies are to fulfill the requirements, it becomes simple. So I'm going to look at what the requirements are, because the simple part is fulfilling the requirements. I've done the grunt work for you. In my education outreach program that I use when I speak to corporations or I speak to groups or in my office, I've identified what those requirements are. And the idea of these requirements is to identify the areas of your health that you can control. Because you can't control everything. You can't control if you step off the curb and get hit by a bus. You might want to look both ways before you cross the road, but it's out of your control. You can't control if you get hit by lightning, although again, you shouldn't walk around in a lightning storm with a big metal rod. You can't control if you're born with a genetic disease, but what you have control over is fulfilling these requirements. And if we look at what these 5 requirements are, I have my own language that I use in my program, but to simplify it, the first one is we need to rest and recover. We need to eat healthful foods. We need to move the way our body is designed. We need to ensure that we are in proper alignment, and we need to think positively. And by rest and recover, I mean we need to get some good quality sleep. We need to relax. We need to love our life and enjoy things. Shut our brain off once in a while. By eating healthful foods, I mean we have to eat our essential proteins and fats. We need to eat our micronutrients, which are our vitamins and minerals. And we need to do all this while limiting the amount of toxicity we put into our body. We need to move the way we're designed. We need to pick up heavy things. We need to move fast. We need to get our heart rate going. We need to be mobile. This is the way our body is designed to move. And we need to do this. We need to be in alignment, because when your body's in proper alignment, you have the opportunity for all the communication in your brain, all that healing ability, all that communication to get out to the rest of the body, so that the plan your brain is putting together can reach everything else. And lastly, you need to think positively, right? You need to love yourself. You need to love your life. You need to choose to wake up every single day with passion and purpose. And if you fulfill these 5 requirements, I promise you, you will be as healthy as you possibly can be every single time. Okay? Unfortunately, there is a catch to this. It's your responsibility. You need to take responsibility for your health. Nobody is coming to save you. It is up to you. You need to understand and accept that there's no such thing as a neutral health decision. Every decision you make in your health is good for you or bad for you. And we don't expect you to be perfect, but what you want to do is make enough good decisions that it moves you up what I call the health continuum and makes you more healthy. Because when you make a bad health decision, it brings you down the other way and leads you towards sickness and disease. You're not going to be perfect, but what you want to do is make enough positive health decisions that it outweighs the negative ones, so that it does not have an effect on your longevity or quality of life. And that's something that every single individual deserves in our world. So as I end off here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge every single one of you. I'm going to challenge you to every single day make more and more health decisions. I'm going to challenge you to educate the people around you, your friends, your family, the people you love, to live a better life and to get the life that they deserve. Thank you very much.
Do you still think you should use like pills for like small colds and flus and stuff?
So what you want to look at, there's a time and a place for all of these things, right? Medications, sort of thing. But you got to look at what's the role. The way I look at it when I make decisions for myself or my patients, if they ask me, one is it's the person's choice, but you have to accept that there's a negative consequence for any of these things. What you have to decide is the negative consequence worth the opposite. The way I look at these questions myself is I look at, is my body going to be able to adapt to this on its own without having any long-term repercussions? And so if the answer is it can, then you kind of suck it up and go forward with it. If it can't, then you have the interventions. Those interventions are there to help us out. When they save your life, when they change your quality of life, where they allow you to not suffer along the way, you take them, there's no question. But you don't take them just because, right? Those symptoms are there for the right, like when I use the antacid example, right? If you go right ahead and do it, but there's a negative consequence. If the only time you get heartburn is after a Grey Cup party once a year, it's probably not going to have a long-term negative consequence. But I have patients that think they don't take antacids very often, it's only after each meal. Literally every time they eat. They're perpetuating the problem. And so you got to look at where does it fit into that. If you can adapt on your own, awesome. If you can't, then you need to find the intervention that causes the least amount of toxicity that's going to give you what you want. Does that make sense? Yeah.